Okay. Good morning, Crystal Palace, and welcome to the Upper Norwood Library Hub's live lunch. It's not even called that, is it? It's called the Library Lunch. You'd think I'd know that, seeing how I created it. Well, there we go. Things that happen while on stage, we are with Bryher Scudamore today. He's going to tell us all about the stuff that she does. Hello, Bryher. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Beautiful day today.
Oh, I wouldn't know. I'm in this darkened studio with all these lights. So tell the folks at home who perhaps don't know you, if they've been living under a rock in Crystal Palace for all this time, who you are and what it is you do.
Right. Okay. So I am a Crystal Palace person since 1955 when I moved from Cornwall to Crystal Palace. And the library is very close to my heart, as anybody who knows me knows, because I learned to read in what was the children's library, which has become the fantastic entertainment space that you run. And then in the 1960s, I was a Saturday girl, putting the books back on the shelves and stamping the books and all the things we used to do in those days. And then when it was under threat, I, with a group of other people, fought tooth and nail to keep the library open and to keep it staffed and helped develop what you now do brilliantly as the hub. So I'm associated with the library for a long time and I love books, and my background is that I was a journalist. In fact, I was the news editor of the Nord News when that existed in Crystal Palace. But I worked mostly for 25 years for the BBC. So I worked on the programme called That's Life, which anybody kind of in their 40s will know about, but as it finished about 25 years ago, it's kind of very out of date. But anyway, we used to get audiences of between 18 and 20 million people watching us. And That's Life was a mixture of humour and very, very serious consumer stories. So we reached the public and it was a fantastic thing to work on. And many of us who worked on it still get in touch with each other now, and we do Zoom calls and Zoom quizzes and things like that. So it was a very fantastic thing to be part of. And then I left the BBC. I went to work at the Eden Project as their Director of Communications. And while I was there, my beloved mother, whose name was Peggy Mitchell, died, and unexpectedly. And I suddenly realised I knew so little about her life. There were so many things. I mean, until I was doing her probate and it was going through the papers, I discovered that my parents were married on Christmas Eve. I didn't know that before. Didn't know about her education. She was just my best friend, person I talked to practically every day. But there were these acres of her life I knew nothing about. And so I thought, I can't bear this. I'll become a ghostwriter and help people write their life story for their family. And then I worked out that costs thousands of pounds. I mean, there's a very good company called Life Books that do it, but it costs £7,000 per person. So, and I wanted everybody to be able to do this. And so at 60, I'm just had my 70th birthday.
Happy birthday.
60, I created an online system that means that anybody, no matter how good or bad at writing, can create a beautiful hardback book of their life story for their family. And it looks a bit like this. This is my sample book. So that's the cover. And then inside, it's difficult to flick and to show it to you. So you can have the photographs of yourself. That's me when I was 18 months old. And then there are pictures of certificates and your family. So there's my birth certificate. So the book includes everything you want to include about your life, all the documents, all the photographs that are precious to you. And the thing about it being a book is, and it's digital, therefore you can order more than one copy, because the thing about families is my husband's of 45 years, is a really, really good cook. And his mum had a fantastic recipe book, but it went to somebody else in the family. So he doesn't have that and doesn't have any of the recipes, which he would love to make. So if you have a family, if with lockdown, all these terrible things going on with COVID, it's a perfect time for a grandparent to write their life story. And actually, if you're any good at the internet, you can do it via Zoom or FaceTime with your grandchild and create this book together online. And at the end of it at Christmas, they will have a fantastic Christmas present and you will have shared some wonderful time with your precious grandchildren.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. And I guess the idea for this came from working with That's Life, did it?
Well, the idea, as I say, came as a response to my mother's death, because that's what made me suddenly think, oh my goodness, everybody's got a life story that they should share with their family, because it really is the most precious thing you can, as a legacy that you can leave. But the skill set that I had for running a business, because running a business is completely different from working in journalism, just generally. I learned, obviously, as the editor of That's Life. So, business planning and running a system and understanding. And the other part from that, when I was at the BBC, I was also editor-in-chief of BBC Online. So I helped start the BBC's website. So all the skills that I learned at the BBC, I put to use in building the business. And it's really, it's been fantastic. I love doing it. The only thing about it I don't love, excuse me, is doing VAT returns. Cannot say I love doing VAT returns. But apart from that, dealing with my customers, who are fabulous and fascinating, is really important. What's astonishing to me is how many people think they don't have a story to tell. They don't anything worth telling. And it drives me mad, because actually the little things about your life are fascinating to future generations. So, for instance, when I was a kid in the 50s at school down in Auckland Road was called Park School, which was one of those big houses on the corner where I learned to read and write, or learn to write anyway. They used to force my left hand, I'm left-handed, behind my back and force me to write with my right hand, because that's what they did in those days. You had to be right-handed. Nowadays, nobody would dream. I mean, no child could imagine. And certainly we really did make up the ink out of blue-black powder with water. And then we had a pen you would dip in. And this is not Victorian. This is 1956, 55, 56. So, and I don't think a child could possibly imagine writing with a dip-in pen into ink nowadays. It would just seem so extraordinary. So things are very different. So everybody's got a story to tell.
Yeah, I think even like my parents are war babies, I guess, war babies. So like just even them talking about growing up in becoming a teenager around post-war Britain or post-war Northern Ireland even, and then going into what they went into, just like day-to-day life becomes quite interesting. Like some of the stories that people can tell. It's very interesting.
We didn't have telephone. We did have telephones existed. But actually, if you wanted to get a phone in those days, it was extremely difficult. And then when you did get one, it was a shared line with your neighbour. So you had to wait for your neighbour to finish their call before you could make your call. Seems, no mobile phones, only landline. And before you had a phone, then the way you communicated with the policeman, you go to the police box at the end of the road, which now only children could imagine to be a TARDIS. Can't imagine being a police box.
Yeah, that's true. I actually know a couple of people who have tried to start their own stories. So there was someone I worked with who I will definitely send this link on to them, because they were writing their personal story for their children. But I also went through this with my parents, where I was trying to get, the family information from them. Because I know a little bit about my own parents, but I know even less about my grandparents. And we are a shipyard family on one side who are connected to the HMS Belfast that's in by Tower Bridge, and then also the Titanic. And those stories just are not getting passed down, because either the kids don't live in this country anymore, or we just never really talked about it because of the way Northern Irish people specifically are. It's just like, let's not talk about stuff that might be too serious. So this seems like a really good way to grasp a lot of that stuff in. So is there an element you can add your previous, like your grandparent stories and stuff to it as well? Like how does your book deal with multi-generational stories? I guess I'm dealing with.
Well, the online system has a load of prompts, so it asks you all sorts of questions about your life, but also it goes back in detail, asking you questions about your great grandparents, and then it then asks you if you want to write, but going further back, because lots of people are interested in genealogy and finding out about family history. So it can all be included in the book with family history maps and things. But the thing I always say is, because I deal with a lot of people interested in genealogy, and they want to find out about their great grandparents. And I say to them, if you don't write your life story, what will your great grandchildren know about you? because you will still be a blank to them. So I always say family history starts with you, but on the system you can go back as far as you like to include as much detail as you wish. All the photographs and documents and things that you can find, you can include in it. So it all goes into the book. And the reason it's a book, I love new technology. I particularly, I'm an Apple girl. So all my bits and pieces, they're all Apple. Anyway, so it can be digital. But the thing about digital technology is it changes, as you were saying to me earlier before we started speaking to the public. It changes all the time. When I was in television, when I started in television, it was 2-inch tape, and then it went down to 1-inch tape. Then it went down to half-inch tape, and then it became the precursor to MP4. All those formats have changed over the last 40 years. In 40 years' time, if it's all digital and video and stuff like that, which is fabulous, who will be able to access it? Whereas a book, this is a format that will last for hundreds of years. It's a hardback book, and it will last for hundreds of years, because that's the important thing. It's an heirloom. And much as I love new technology, it just isn't going to survive, I don't think, for most people. They'd have to upgrade this technology all the time to keep it.
Well, I'm assuming that someone could have the PDF version as well, or there is a digital version they can have as well as a book. Is there like a download that goes along with it?
So the answer to that is when they're doing it online, they can download a PDF of a full proof, so they can make corrections and then go back into the system and make the corrections. Until January, I don't sell PDF versions, partly because I don't think they last, and therefore it's in a way it's breaking what I'm trying to achieve. Yeah. But also, most importantly, because at the moment, while books are VAT free, ebooks have VAT on them. And so in business terms, there's an awful lot more work for me involved in PDFs, which I sell, so I can give them away. So I do a charitable version for various organisations like the Not Forgotten Association, where they have free access to the whole system and a completely free download. And then if they want to have the hard copy, they pay for it. But that way they've got it. They've got it as a PDF. But I say, my problem is, how long will a PDF last? And if you print it out, it'll cost you more than buying the book.
Yeah, of course. My only thing is like a lot of my generation, I suppose a lot of people, it's not even a generational thing. It's like trying to get away from having stuff, but also like having a nice backup in the family, because people are going to have family documents in the cloud. I mean, that's definitely a way people are going to move forward to have that. So having something like this in the cloud, in case there's a flood or in case there's a fire or something, then that book's not lost into the ether, I guess.
That's very optimistic of you, because who knows what's going to happen with the cloud. But the vice president of Google about 4 years ago said this is going to be a huge black hole in history, because all the stuff in the cloud is on different formats. And unless the formats are revised, it's like when we had the people who may remember when we had the millennium bug was a huge fear. And there are pieces of software in really important parts of our technology, which now there is not one single IT engineer who can read that particular language. The skill has completely gone. Oh, yeah. So I agree with you. All the photographs in the cloud, and it will be more and more common, and it will be used. But that's presuming that the internet doesn't go down seriously for some reason or another. That some terrorist takes it down, and you're more likely to actually be able to save the book than you are to save your computer. So I would argue that I love the technology. I have everything in the cloud. I do everything online. But I would argue that the book is the only safe way to have your family have the whole thing. So
yeah, but as you said, you could have multiple copies of that book, so you don't keep them in the same fireproof box in the basement or whatever. So that's cool. That is cool. So you mentioned like the other company was £7,000 to get the book done. How much for a normal lifetime ballpark figure? What's the cost price on these? Oh, not cost price. Sorry. What is the cost to the consumer on these books?
So for a year's access to my system, which is called auto.biography, and you've got the website written up on the chat line, but auto.biography is a word that I created because I couldn't put a full stop in the middle of autobiography. So anyway, auto.biography costs £250 for 1 year's access to the system and a book, one hardback book, with no restriction on the number of pages or photographs or whatever. So it's as fat or as thin as you want it to be. And then if you want additional copies, they start from £65.
Okay, and how long does it normally take a person to do this?
Well, it does vary hugely, but anything between, well, one person took 10 days, and I've got a group of people in the University of Third Age, and it's taken them 3 years. So, but they're doing it as a group, and they seem to be slowing each other down. So half of them have finished, and half of them haven't finished. So, but I've always thought a year was a generous amount of time, because the most common age group doing autobiography are in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and most of them are in their late 70s and 80s. And so they, a year they may have before COVID. Often they'd be looking after their grandchildren, they'd be going on holidays, and so they'd have or hospital appointments, so they'd have various things they had to do. So I allowed for plenty of time to do it. I mean, if you really concentrated on it hard and you produced a book of about 400 pages, I reckon it would take you about a month or so. But most people pick it up and put it down, and the other thing is, one of my early testers called it WD-40 for the memory, because when he started writing about his national service, he suddenly remembered more stuff. And so he would have to have a pen by the bed at night just to make notes of what he suddenly remembered to include. So it took him slightly longer than he was expecting it to.
Yeah. I would imagine like people could start the basis of this offline and then come on with stuff as well.
Yeah. I mean, people can do it. There are all sorts of ways, and they can go forwards and backwards and write and rewrite and change whatever they want to. They can write it in a Word document and copy and paste it into the system. The system also allows you to dictate. So for people who aren't very good at typing, they just hit the microphone icon, and then they can talk into the system, and it will type up for them. But so you do have to be able to do a kind of email or an internet search. That basic knowledge of how to do something online to use the system. But if you're not a good writer, I have written hundreds of thousands of words that you can select from. Or if you are a good writer, then you can write it entirely in your own words. Most people do a bit of both. Some people find what I've written is absolutely perfectly describes what they want to say, and they use that, and they might edit it a little bit. And some people write it, entirely in their own words, but most people do a bit of both.
Oh, that's really cool. I also think. Oh, I don't know what's going on there. I also think it'd be just a good tool for folks who perhaps were writing about their life from a professional point of view. I'm assuming that professionals could use it as well. If you had, I don't know, ex-policeman or someone who just did something cool when they were a kid and wants to release a autobiography.
It's yours. If you write it for yourself, it's an autobiography, and if you write it about somebody else, it's a biography. Some people use it as a biography, the system as a biography. They want to write about their late husband or their late parent, and they use it, but write it, as their parent's story, not their own story. So it's very, very flexible. It's designed to be as flexible as possible, and include all sorts of things like your favorite toy when you're a child, and because of my darling husband and his recipes, your favorite recipes that you would pass on to your family in future, and also what advice you would give to the future generations reading the book. What would you say to them about how to live their lives?
Yeah, that's it's pretty amazing. I did not know that you did that. So amazing. Thank you very much. I definitely have some people I will be passing that on to, because I'm sure they're all sitting at home just writing their own stuff to start with. And I think I might even push it towards my parents and go, now's the time to be doing this. Yeah, that would be good.
Well, if you are able to, given my father was a stiff upper lip, Brit, never talked about anything. He'd been a Japanese prisoner of war, so he definitely wouldn't talk about that. But the system actually, it almost gives you permission to ask cheeky questions like, well, Mum, who did you first snog? Mm-hmm. How, if you may know how your parents met. I didn't know how my parents met, but how your parents met, and what they first fancied about each other. Things that you wouldn't normally, you might ask, but you might not ask. But the system, you can always say, well, autobiography wants to know about so and so.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. We're almost out of time. So if people want to contact you, is the email address just on your website?
Email address is on the website. So I'm Bryher Scudamore, but that's a very unusual name. So you can write to help at auto.bugby, and that'll reach me.
Okay, cool.
You have to remember how to spell that auto.bugby. So it's AUTODOTBIOGRAPHY.com. So it's one whole word. So and it describes what it is, because it's your autobiography online. That you write it online, and then you get a beautiful book.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. It's in the description. The link to that is in the description. It is on the screen underneath me here. And it's also in the chat. So there's no excuse. If you're out there and you want this kind of thing, then get in contact right away. Amazing. I'm just going to go over the little bit of outro that we do every single day. So today, we are pushing for our new event, which is this weekend, which is a Words Flow Festival. I'm just getting the link for you because I have to share this out for you. Words Flow Festival is a spoken word 3-day event running from Saturday to Monday. Each event is from 7:30 till 9:30. We are selling tickets to a very limited amount of seats in the room for the festival, and it's also going to be live streamed online on our channels. And if you saw Crystal Palace Lockdown Live on Saturday night, you'll see the kind of thing that we're going to be streaming out. The Saturday night is the youth night, so everyone is under 21, I want to say. And then the other nights, we have pure performance on the Monday night, and on Sunday night it is a performance plus Q&A with the artists. So if you're into spoken word, that's all to play for. Tickets for in the room are £5 each. It is a socially distanced event, so you will be at a table. If you're coming in a group, please book all the tickets together as a group so we know to set the tables up correctly. Obviously you cannot have a group of more than 6 people, and we do ask that those 6 people come from only 2 households each. It's hard to keep up with all these guidelines that just keep on coming. And if not, well, it'll be online, so you'll get to watch it no matter what. Alrighty, I'm going to go because we're completely out of time, but all the links in the descriptions of all our normal shenanigans, including Clear Community Web if you've got folks who need help. And if you want to come on the show yourself, my email address is also in the description. And there we are looking for people who run charities, have local businesses. If you just want to come online and tell us what you think of the local area, I'm talking about the traffic. We may well have a freeform Friday. Well, we'll just allow anyone to come on and say whatever they like, as long as it is family friendly and clean. You have been warned. Amazing. All right, I'm away. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and thank you very much to Bryher who joined us. Hello, thank you very much. And we shall see you all another day. I'm just trying to do all my screens. This happens to me every time. I'm like, I'm not ready to end. I'm not ready because my screens aren't up. Too much technology, too little fingertips. All right, see you all tomorrow.